Okay, so let's get to the violence against Asians. Now, let me be clear. There is a rise right now, and it's horrible, of anti-Asian violence right now, of Asian hate crimes being committed. And I want to know how much you guys have heard of this. And what's crazy is when you read articles, and the articles describe a video, and then they don't include the video because it destroys the very narrative of the article. And this is another example where I realized I had a blind spot because I read more than I watch a lot of these videos. So there has been a spike in crimes, Asian hate crimes. But, of course, Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, this is probably what you've heard. They're using it to try and tar and feather their political opponents.
There's a no grace man will probably speak to this in New York. A man just pushed a woman in her 50s. They described her as old. I describe her as young. Pushed a woman, Asian American woman, and then on the Olivia Moon, she put out the word on, and other celebrities put out the word on social media. The New York police, she gave them credit, found him very soon, but they didn't know whether it was a hate crime. White supremacy is the biggest bucket of concern when it comes to domestic terrorism.
Well, that's not statistically verified. Here's what they want you to believe, Nancy Pelosi. They want you to believe that it's, of course, because of Trump's hateful rhetoric, right? It's because of the systemic racism. I think we have a collage here. You saw this everywhere. Of course, it's specifically because Donald Trump called it the Chinese virus. As the Hodgkins, we call it the Chinese virus because it's from China.
Whoa. Yeah. Descriptions in the name.
Descriptions in the name. Get yourself 25% off. Yeah. Chinese virus is because it originates from China, which, by the way, they are now admitting that it, at first they tried to say, remember when we were on air and they were saying a new evidence emerges that it actually originated from the United States on CNN?
They were trying to
I was like, really? The only source that you have is the Chinese minister of, I don't know if it was minister of defense, basically propaganda minister on Twitter who made it up, and you had Chris Cuomo acting like it was legitimate.
Yeah, saying, see, Donald Trump lies again, trying to blame China.
So this is a good example right here. This article, okay, let's bring this. This article talks about it and makes, a whole in-depth article, makes no mention of the race of the attackers. Look, and this is a perfect example of where race matters. I don't believe in looking at people through the prism of race wherever you're black, you're Asian, you're male, you're female, you're trans male, you're trans female. That's not how we want to look at people. However, if we do see a startling statistical trend, specifically if there's an interracial relationship that seems to be consistent, this is where it matters. This is where there needs to be a dialogue that can take place. So in reality, the attackers aren't a bunch of white guys in MAGA hats or Jesse Smollett's personal trainers. The vast majority are black or Arabic. Just to be clear. And in case you didn't believe us, I have a video montage. But here's what's interesting. I have a video montage for you that were taken from sources. If you go to the articles that include these videos, don't mention who's committing the crimes in the videos. Here you go.
This surveillance footage shows a 71-year-old Asian grandmother violently shoved to the ground, her purse stolen. Just one of several attacks in California's Bay Area recently. A 91-year-old man pushed in Oakland's Chinatown, one of 3 attacks that day. 84-year-old Thai American Visha Ratanapakdi knocked over while out for a walk. He died a few days later from his injuries. His family saying they believe it was rooted in racism.
This guy should not be let back on the street. He should be charged with murder. If you see the video, there's nothing non-intentional about it.
Asian American leaders say these attacks are a trend,
they look
not
like they
isolated
Brooks
incidents.
Brothers.
We have been reporting on the growing number of attacks on Asian Americans across this country. And tonight here in New York, a vicious and brutal attack. The suspect allegedly stabbing the victim from behind.
The 36-year-old victim, seen here in security camera video, now being reviewed by police, was walking alone when Salman Muflihi allegedly stabs him in the back with this 8-inch knife.
Police are investigating another attack on an Asian American person in Northern California.
The video was taken at a laundromat.
He's going to lose
San
his Gap
Francisco's
Kids
Chinatown,
sponsorship.
February 23rd.
I hate Asians.
Why you call me that? That's what you don't use for you. You don't call me that. That's racist to you. This is the thing. The Asians right now, this is something that's not new, by the way. This is important for people to know. In San Francisco, okay, in 2008, this predates COVID, this shocked me. and all the sources are available at louderwithcrowder.com. Okay, you can go read all the original sources. We hyperlink to them in the description below. The San Francisco Police Department found that 85% of all physically violent crimes, physical assault crimes, consisted of a black attacker and an Asian victim.
Wow.
85% in the Bay Area.
And that's the most woke precinct in all of America.
That's what you would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you would think. That absolutely shocked me.
Yeah,
it is shocking.
And of course, you won't get the statistics as to what's happening right now because nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to address it. Look, that guy just said something that I guarantee you was edited where he said, this is absolutely racism. Okay?
Yeah.
Of course, it wouldn't have been aired if he said, look, this is absolutely black on Asian racism. Anyone can be racist, by the way. Asians can be racist against blacks. Blacks can be racist against whites. Of course, whites can be racist against blacks, right? It's just a Mexican standoff of hate. Also, Mexicans can be racist against everybody. The point here is this is something that needs to be addressed that no one is, if you're not being honest about the problem, 85% is what we would call statistically unbelievably significant. Yeah. And if we're talking about systemic racism and inherent unconscious bias, well, what about the preeminently conscious bias that causes you to run up and push an old Asian man, causing him to be concussed and die? That's not subconscious bias. It's going on right now to the tune of 85% of all physical assaults. Do we just no longer care about Asian victims? Are they not the minority of the day, or do they need to be trans?
Yeah, but Nancy Pelosi and crew over there do something that they always do. They find a real problem, right? There is a rise, and then they go, who can we blame that will help us? We can blame Donald Trump. We can say it's because he's a white supremacist. We can say that shoving incident is a direct link to him saying China virus. And people will buy it because they're like, oh, Donald Trump says mean things on Twitter, so therefore it must be true. Yeah. Let's not look at actually how to fix the problems that we have. Let's just look at how we can blame people and have political advantage.
Right. I'm pretty sure that Saliki was inspired by Donald Trump's latest press.
Yeah. He probably ran up and said, this is MAGA country.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think this race is? And by the way, just let me give you an example. This is something that's pretty important. Why do you think there's been a rise? This has been going on statistically, again, as a baseline since before COVID, right?
Like, why did the video make me hard?
Oh, good Lord. I'm going to move on here.
What?
Hard because he flexed.
Yes.
So
yes,
why has this happened? Right? Why has this racism increased? Why have there been an increase in, well, again, the baseline, 85% in the Bay Area, right? And this is an area where you have a lot of black people and you have a lot of Asian people, right? Yeah. So they come in contact more often than, say, in even some other inner cities where the areas are completely segregated. All right. So it's kind of a good, almost call it a bellwether county for racial hate crime. Jeez. So this has been going on for a while, but why has it gotten worse? Well, let's think. You've potentially bred more racism by accusing everybody of being racist and giving people license as a perceived underclass or victim, from that guy who shoved the old Asian man to Meghan Markle, that they're a victim of circumstance. They're a victim of people systemically discriminating against them. And to give you more proof, that last one, the guy who got shoved, the San Francisco district attorney pulled the charges.
What?
In that last clip, to promote, quote, restorative justice. To promote restorative justice, that man was shoved to, I believe it's the clip where the man was killed. So what do you think happens when you tell a specific race of people, hey, you can't make it in this country. Hey, you're not good enough. Hey, the deck is stacked against you. Ignore the former president of the United States. Ignore Dr. Ben Carson, ROTC, first person to separate conjoined twins. Colin Powell's not black enough. Condoleezza Rice isn't black enough, right? Yeah. Let's ignore those folks. But the deck is stacked against you. You have absolutely no chance. It's understandable that you commit crimes. We're going to let you riot and loot and cause over $2 billion worth of damages in your own communities very often. We're talking about dozens of deaths, hundreds of officer casualties, including black officers. We're going to let you do that, and we're even going to carry your water because we will say that it is mostly peaceful, right? We will do that because you have been the underclass, and you know what? Those are the folks keeping you down. Now you have people who go, really? What happens if I commit a crime? And, well, we're not going to do anything with the rioters and looters, or very little comparatively. Yeah. What are you going to do if I beat up an old Chinaman, as they say? This is something they're allowed to say. We don't consider it racist because of cultural differences. What happens if I beat him up? We're going, well, in order to permit restorative justice to take place, we'll rescind those charges. You have created a powder keg of racism and violence.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a spike in crime across the entire country, entirely attributable to riots, right? Crime went down almost every single year since the 1980s, spiked up because of no consequences for rioting, and now you have Asian Americans, another minority, by the way, built the railroads, discriminated against pretty recently, put in internment camps, our bad, that's one on us, and now they have the knockout game to look forward to at their local fish market.
Absolutely. And if there are no consequences, why do you think we had rooftop Koreans in the first place? Because police weren't responding to take care of the situation in the riots.
Also, they were already there preparing the seagulls.
Well, that's true.
That is true.
It's free food.
Well, just by calling it restorative, it simply means that you're allowing a group of people to get away with all kinds of stuff based on issues of the past, which doesn't work. Nobody was there for that. They didn't experience those same things. In no way is that evolving. It's just going, oh, you can be this piece of shit for this long, and then there's no answer to this.
Well, and hold on, when was a legal defense? I'm sorry, I've had a tough life, and I get to take it out on somebody else. That's never worked for anybody in any situation.
Oh no, it's worked all the time.
Well, you go to
the San Francisco DA.
Yeah, now.
Just now, but he's
Ferguson.
an idiot. It shouldn't happen.
No, it shouldn't happen. But it happens all the time.
I tried that with my DUIs.
Do you ever claim temporary insanity?
No.
That's a good one.
But I did go to a mental hospital, so they did for me.
Yes.
Well, you know what? He was insane, but now we think that you should drop all charges. We're not going to do that. He was black and free.
Dismissed.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.